And we are back for part 3 of the first episode of the This Sounds Better podcast with Jason Kingsland, Miles Walker, and myself, Alex Tumay. We are here at the beautiful Silent Sound Studios, thanks to TK. And to start off today, / continue today, I wanted to ask you guys who your biggest engineering inspirations were.
For me, outside of the people I was lucky enough to learn from directly and work with, shout out Leslie, I met Tony Maserati early on when I was at Berkeley because he, I think was a student there, and he has a thing where he'll come back and, work with the students. And I got to meet him there, which was fantastic. And then years later, I got to get a Pussycat Dolls song I had done, sent over to him for mix, and it was just like blown away. That was great. Yeah. But the first engineer that got me listening or thinking about engineering as a career was definitely Mark Stent. I was actually talking about some of the Massive Attack stuff, and I was just like, wait a minute, why is this record so different than this other record? But I love them both. And then I go read in the liners. It was the same engineer. And, Spike's also very creative from a production standpoint, but really it was his sonics that I was blown away with back in the day and was just like, man, I gotta see what's up with this, man. This is great. So those are the two guys that really did it for me. Outside of Leslo.
I gotta say, you kind of took one
sorry
straight out of my mouth. To me, Spike Stent is easily one of the most interesting engineers and mix engineers because he's not externally maybe he's not quite as newsworthy as a Chris Lord-Alge or one of those cats.
Not with that attitude.
Fuck. God, I'm really fucking this up. But I think you know what I'm talking about.
Sure, yeah.
But he easily has one of the most comprehensive discographies I've ever seen out of any mixer.
Yeah, he's definitely got range. That dude's got range, which is dope.
And so, without reiterating your thing, mine would be Chad Blake. Chad Blake definitely has, in so many ways, shown how creative you can be with sonics. And listen to that first Latin Playboys record. That's insane. Some of the moves they're making on that sonically, and that to the point that the sonics are almost 50% of the production of it. It's half of why you would listen to it because it's such a vibe sonically. Alex?
Oh, for me? Well, there's you guys, since I learned so much from you both. But on the longevity and where I want to be in this industry and how long their careers have been, Young Guru and Mike Dean,
for sure,
they have been around.
Respect.
And been making the best music and the most popular music that has been in every era, for 30 something years, it's
sure. Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to be making something cool when I shouldn't be cool anymore and then still somehow be cool. Mike is still cool. That's still a cool dude. You know what I mean? Guru is still an awesome person doing a lot of outreach and stuff like that.
Yeah, his programs are
and
great.
then for people that are doing things that I respect now that are more of my peers, Derek Ali.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Everything he does is golden. He's got engineers,
which is great,
which is a great fucking program. And he's traveling the country teaching kids, which is what I want to do. Everything he does is fucking great. And I want to get to that point. You know what I mean? So
awesome.
For me, it's not as much a sonic thing because that's so subjective to me at this point. But it's more of what they have done with their careers. And the three of them blow me away all the time, how smart they are about their careers.
Nice.
Totally.
And for that, I want to talk about how we all started in this industry and how people should start, because I get this question a lot, is how do I get my foot in the door? Do I go to school? Do I intern? How do I start? I know Jason skipped the formal music education or engineering education, right?
Halfway.
And then Miles went to Berkeley.
Yeah, I went deep end.
I went to a school. And, we all have kind of different perspectives on what works and what doesn't. And I think, personally for myself, I was not a self-starter. I needed Full Sail to help me,
Needed that debt.
I needed that incredible amount of student loans to force me to work real hard. And also I wasn't a self-starter at the time. I was having a real hard time figuring out how to get my foot in the door like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I was having a really hard time teaching myself engineering. Like I would just open Logic and just stare at it. Like, what button do I press to learn? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't know anything. I played in bands and stuff, but like we didn't record. We played in a garage or in like the den of someone's parents' house, and that was it. Like there was no recording. I saw Logic once. I knew I had to do that for a living. And so like Full Sail was the answer for me. But I will say where I learned most of how to be an engineer and how to like function as a working engineer was in the studio.
Sure. Yeah.
Interning was the way that I learned the most information. Would I have been able to get there without sitting through school and doing all that? I don't know. For me personally, that helped me get myself from point A to point B at whatever the cost was. But, you know, for everybody, I think everybody's different is kind of the note that I want to hit on there. And I do think that everybody should try out interning before they go to school.
Miles?
Well, yeah, I have a pretty standard thought on education. The more you can get, the better. Because what I feel is great about school is you can fuck up super hard and there's no repercussion other than like, oh, well, that doesn't work. I won't do that in the future. Whereas I think you're going to learn the most, like Alex says, when you're in the studio next to the people that inspire you, next to the people that are doing it on the level that you want to do it. When I was around Leslie, that's when I learned the most about mixing for sure, you know, because I was right there next to him.
Right.
What was nice for me about school is I went down in flames a whole bunch of times at school. Mm-hmm. And so that way, when I got the chance to sit next to Leslie, I never messed up in front of Leslie, where it's like, you're naturally going to make mistakes while you're learning. That's the whole point. So for me, the thing I like about school is you get the chance to get those mistakes out the way so that when you hit the ground running professionally, you're always building. You're not doing a roller coaster. It's just steadily building. So that's why.
Maybe you.
Yeah.
Well,
all the time.
I was like, wait, hold on.
Well, I mean, like,
Maybe I went to the wrong school.
Let me put it this way. You're building and you're avoiding giant pitfalls, like career-ending pitfalls.
Maybe for you.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the thing I like about school, and that's why I like that. But all that being said, you need to get into a studio and intern and be around the people that you like being around. The studios I worked at were specifically because the engineers I wanted to learn from were at those studios.
Yep. I would say this, because like I feel like that there's a lot of ways of reiterating the exact same fucking thing that both y'all just said. Be on the hunt to find what inspires you within this. If you think that it's something you're interested in, stay specifically where you're interested. Like, so like for me, when I got in, I wanted to know very specific facets of the business. And I found a producer that I could work under as an intern and be interested in what he was doing. And to me, that's really important because like as much as all experience is experience, to me, I think that the human condition is very fickle. So I mean that like you got to find what turns you on and then like really go for that. True. Now that doesn't mean that you can't diversify or whatever, but if you're not stoked on a situation or like an internship or whatever isn't working out for you,
yeah, move on.
Fucking move on.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
you don't need to intern
dead weight.
just to intern. You should love your interning.
Totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of making mistakes, I made a bunch in that aspect where school taught me a lot. It did.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot of the basics. I learned signal flow. I learned, Pro Tools quick keys, some of them. I learned a lot more in interning and like in practice. But what I really learned was how to handle myself in a studio, and that's what interning was for. I went through a whole 6 months of interning at a television studio, like a television audio studio, before I found Ben and Milk Money and Maze and Solitaire and working for CeeLo and Bangladesh and all those people, because I thought I didn't want to work in music. And so but in that first internship, I was quiet. I wasn't very personable. I stayed out of the way. I was trying to be what they asked me to be and just that, but I did it the best I could. And come to find out, that's a really good way to stay an intern forever. they weren't going to advance me. They were like, this guy really cleans the bathrooms well, and he really stocks his shelves well, but he doesn't really do anything else. And by the time I like kind of wised up, that studio ended up shutting down. And so I left with literally no growth, nothing to show for it. I had never really sat in on sessions. I had gotten a couple of trial sessions to do. They were starting to move me up finally, but it was 6 months later. And, you know, that was it. I was back at square one. And luckily I kind of saw that coming and had moved on to Maze, and then also had learned my lesson. And day one was starting up conversations with Ben. He brought me into a session. I had assistant credits within a month.
That's great.
Right. Well, and I would say that that's a very, the thing about this job sum total, and a lot of interning to me is about this process, is being very discretionary of who you're talking to and what it is you're trying to convey. 'Cause like as a producer, I have to follow that exact ethic set with any of my clients, with anyone who's engineering for me. When I'm engineering, I have to think about with the producer. If I'm a mixer, I have to think about for the producer and the artist. And so meaning that like, if you want to get a shot in the chair and you're an intern, you got to think about like, what's the ideal time of going for it? What's the best way of demonstrating that, and how not to step on anyone's toes and getting there. And the thing is, I have found that like patience coupled with like diligence and showing up will pay off every fucking time. The guy who shows up will get the job.
Agreed.
Period. And so like when I was an intern, because like I started interning when I was 19 years old in studios. Like I was in college, dropped out, started interning. And I think by the time I had a like full time, nothing else is paying my bills gig, I was probably 22.
Wow, that's great.
But I mean, but what I'm saying is that's 3 years. So in that moment, that's 3 fucking years that I'm like going in like, I got a day job. I'm going to the studio. Like I'm going to work from 10 to 6. I worked at Atlanta Pro. I worked at the local studio shop here, met everyone through that. And then like was going to a studio at night from 7 to 2 o'clock in the morning, if I was on the fucking schedule or not. But at the end of the day, that did put me in the position of being like, yo, dude, my girlfriend got sick. I got to dip out. Or can you cover this? Can you watch the end of this session? Or like, I got a band that like, I'm the staff guy. I don't really need to work on this one. Can you do it for me? And so I got injected into a lot of like situations where like no one else could feasibly even cover it just because I was fucking there, qualified or not.
Yeah, that's almost everybody's experience. If you're there and something comes up, you're the guy because you're always there.
Yep.
You might not be good, but at least you're there, and that'll go a really long way with people.
The number one way you get an engineering job is that you were there when the guy that should have been there was not there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare that someone comes into a studio and is like, I'll take whatever engineer you got, especially the least experienced one. It doesn't happen.
Right. No, you're right.
They usually hire a guy from outside, or they hire the best guy in the studio, and there's usually one for every room every single day. And those people are there to work. And if they don't show up, and you're the best assistant on the spot, they're going to use you.
That's right.
And if you kill it, they'll use you again and again and again. And then they'll tell people about you. And that's what happened for me. I know that's what happened for you, and it seems like that's what happened for you as well.
Yep.
Very true.
100%.
Yeah.
But,
so that gets you into the room. I mean, your original question of like, how do you get started? Get around the people that inspire you, and then wait, and show them that you're there. Like, I'm here to be here for you, whatever you need. If it's clean the toilets today, if it's punching these vocals tomorrow, either way, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm here. And then the people will start counting on you. And then like, you'll start with the lunch order. You'll move up to an edit. You're recording a vocal. You're painting their house. Who knows what but they believe you. Don't paint a house.
And then just to continue the career trajectory, people are asking about mixing.
Yep.
And mixing is not a thing you should be doing right away. And here's it, because I started, when I went from assisting to DARP to then engineering, my first songs I recorded, I was the mixer.
Sure.
Because they used a different guy. He didn't do it. He lost the vibe or whatever. He deleted everything I did and tried to start over. It didn't do as good of a job. And they just used my rough mixes. So they started asking me to mix. and I shouldn't have been mixing yet. I was good, but I wasn't like, I didn't understand like the things that you need to understand to put out a finished song. I put out very good rough mixes, and it took me at least a year and a half of mixing like, I don't know, 5 songs, recording and mixing 5-6 songs a day minimum to really feel comfortable with where my mixes ended up. Like, okay, this can go on the radio and it won't suck.
You bring up a point that I think a lot about mixing is the best way to become a good mixer is to become a good recording engineer first.
Yep.
Because not only do you get a chance to work on the rough mix, which as you said in your own case, ended up being the right vibe and the right fit for the artist, but what you really do is you work on recording sounds. And like, if you're just a mixer and people only send you projects that they've recorded, how do you know how the best possible version of that snare can sound if you haven't recorded 15 different snares and you've done it so many different ways? You're just going to start doing things, and you might improve it, you might not, I don't know. But when you've recorded a lot of things, you know, like, that's how you get the best version of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you've recorded a lot and spent the time with the rough mixes, it becomes much clearer what you want to do in a mix. And that's a big part of it, is just like understanding what a record needs and understanding where a record's already good and you don't have to mess with it.
Well, and I think that there's a really interesting sidebar to all of this, right? How about that we live in 2019 and like none of this is actually a requirement? Like the thing that we're actually prescribing. And the thing is, like, I still would prescribe going and working around people, because you will learn more from a person than you will from any fucking YouTube video any day of the week.
This one included.
In minutes. Yeah. Honestly, if you sat in the room with any of us, you would learn way more than we're teaching you right now.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because everything I do is what we're talking about. But it's all the parts at all times, and I'm constantly thinking about all of it. And it's like, yes, some of it has become second nature. But if you ask me about it, I can tell you all the things I learned about that thing up until that point.
But I think that, like, when I started, I lived in LaGrange, Georgia.
Shout out LaGrange.
Shout out. S.O. LaGrange. Yeah. Like, I think it stands for the barn. I think it's what LaGrange is. I know it's a ZZ Top song. But, yeah. My point is, like, not exactly a happening fucking studio in LaGrange, especially pre-Bubba Sparks. LaGrange, Georgia. And so anything I was having to do was a tremendous amount of driving, a tremendous amount of like work to go get there. And so I do think that one high side of where we're at is like, if you live in like, you know, fucking like Poughkeepsie, South Dakota, and like maybe people that you want to work with in studios aren't really close by you, you can still go get an Ableton license or a Pro Tools license and go get onto stuff. And I think the high side of that is that really turns into like, you kind of got to roll your own thing, and maybe you're going to be a little bit of a mutant in what you're doing, but that's cool. That's what makes the world diverse and awesome.
Right.
And it creates this problem of like, how do I even know how to start within that? Like, what kind of gear should I buy? What kind of like equipment do I need? And like, is there these even important questions to ask for where I'm at?
Well, there's the other thought, which is maybe you don't need to spend $100,000 on going to school.
Right.
Maybe you take a loan out for the same amount of money and go build yourself a home studio and bring people into your house and work until you get it. Because at that point, there is no time limit. It's all there for you to learn. And a lot of people are doing that in this day and age, especially because $100,000 is a crazy number. You don't need that. You need,
you guys,
3,000, maybe.
Yeah, right. You can get a lot done.
You can do so much to your home for under $5,000 and get a very good sounding vocal out of that room.
How many of your guys are going fully DIY? Like, cause like you get a lot of people on like IG and on Twitter, like hitting you up. What percentage would you say are just dudes that have decided to like, I'm going to figure this shit out. I don't give a fuck. I'm doing this. Let's go. What percentage of your guys would you say is that?
I would say about 15% right now.
Okay.
I'm getting music that was never in a studio.
Never in a studio.
Never. Like, I mean, and they're using Apollos and they're using a good mic and they've got a good pre-compressor, or they're even using like the modeling stuff. And they've treated their room in their house, or they have like, you know, some basic room treatment, and they're getting a clean vocal.
Right.
And they're more comfortable. You know, there's not like this pressure to like, oh, we spent $2,000 a day on a studio every day, and they're like way more happy with it. And like, would I prefer them to be in a big studio every day? Of course. but are they getting quality music for very low entry equipment? Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, that is completely the benefit of where we're at right now. And like, I think it's great that like, if I'm working on a mix for someone, then if they're not happy with the track or if they want to add a part or whatever, they can just walk in their second bedroom and knock it out.
Right.
And I think that that's fucking incredible. Like, that's the brilliance of where we're at. It's a pain in our ass sometimes too,
Right.
but like,
Even some labels based on their roster are embracing that technique. You know, with a lot of the dance music that I make, often Ultra's reaching out to like new DJ producer acts that maybe they're known great for playing and spinning all over the place, but on the production side, they're really just working out of their own little spot.
Right.
And then they want to pair up with a vocalist who could be just a songwriter on the other side of the world. So they just send the track.
Yep.
So neither one of these have been in a for real studio. These two people might have never even been in the same space, and they put it together and they're like, it sounds almost like a record. We love the production. We love the vocal performance, but it's still not quite a record. So at that point, they choose to bring me in and just kind of like help the two go together.
Right.
And that's functionally from the fact that neither one of them were in a studio, and it's an opportunity to get a little bit of that in some part of the records process. But the part that everybody fell in love with was done completely in their home setups. And like, you know, you can write and create amazing songs that way with all the technology that's out there.
I mean, and there's also for, 70, 80% of the people that want to make music, the problem of there is no culture of music. There is no industry in the city they're in or in the town they're in.
Yeah,
they're
right.
in the middle of fucking nowhere, but there's a lot of talented people around.
Of course.
And at that point, do your research, figure out how to budget and create it. Like most of the new music, at least in the genres that I work in, are so regional because all these kids got together. They started recording in their home together. Like
Right.
Atlanta was that way.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody who's big now grew up together.
Atlanta's been that way several times throughout Atlanta's history.
Yeah, repeatedly.
You know what I mean?
It
That's
comes,
right.
it
That's
comes
exactly
in
right.
waves.
Yeah.
And, like, for example, the South Florida movement, all the kids that are from where I went to high school, like that blew up, like Kodak and Ski and all them, like they created a culture. They're all family. You see that they went to like high school together and they're all friends and they blew up and they weren't in major studios. I'll tell you that because I grew up there. There wasn't like a major studio down there.
Right.
And they figured it out. And I think that brings us to our next topic, which is how to work with the budget and how to make everything work for you. Like where to spend your money so that you can hear it. I think that's super important because like a lot of people spend money and you can't hear a difference.
and by budget, we're talking about like budget for a DIY.
Yeah. DIY, how to do it yourself-ish.
You know, I think you got to think about what you are looking to do in your space. If vocals is a part of it, I say spend some change on a microphone.
Yep.
That's why, I say go for that really quick and then spend a little bit of change on making sure you can record that microphone well. So if that's a pop shield or like a windscreen so that you're not getting your air conditioner noise, like that, you're getting the most out of that microphone. I would love to say room treatment, but that can be expensive and tricky, but there are some really good vocal based solutions for not a lot of money. If you front load the mic a little bit, if you can do the whole chain, great, but at least do the mic and, make sure it's able to record well. That's one of the places I'd start.
Yeah. I mean, interface is something which doesn't seem like a lot of money because on the high end, a good interface can go like $8,000. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But the Apollo Twin, the Apollo stuff, all those have very industry sounding like they sound like you worked with them. I worked with them.
Sure, all the time.
Like they sound fine.
Yeah.
If not great.
I think you only have to think about your IO count.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you are just planning to do vocals, something like the Twin is unbelievable and that'll get you all the channels you need to get going.
And you can get a used one for $500.
Man.
Which is crazy considering how we all started and how expensive things were when we all started.
Well, and again, I think that you really hit the nail on the head. Like it depends on what your channel count is.
Right. Yeah.
And also it depends on what kind of music you're trying to get to.
Right.
Like I don't necessarily work on say a metal record ever. But I got a lot of friends who do, and their channel count is crazy.
Oh yeah, sure.
Those fuckers put up there's a mic on everything. Like every cymbal's mic'd up. Like guitars are 6 mics on a cone or whatever. Maybe I don't know. I'm just kind of making that up at this point. But you get into the case of needing
a mic locker.
a mic locker
right,
and like 24 channels, and like, how are you going to do it? And, you know, if you're doing just vocals, that's a whole nother need. But I do think that the fundamental underpinning of what you want is this: some type of good environment that you can make decisions in. I'd say that that's my number one starting point every time, is like, it doesn't matter what fucking source you've got with what microphones. Like, if you've got a shitty control room and like a stack of 1073s, you are fucked. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
it really doesn't matter.
We ran up against that when we tried to do the lecture.
Yeah.
And we were doing it there, and we had a good mic.
Right.
A very sensitive microphone, and a very good pre, and like all the modeling and all that. And the room was unusable. So we built a makeshift booth, and we used an SM58, and we built a PVC booth with some packing blankets.
Wow.
And put up the least sensitive mic we could find. And look, as an SM58 will do it.
Yeah.
It'll do it. Sometimes, like, I know I was working with Teddy Sinclair, who's a great songwriter and great artist, and she refuses to use anything else. Yeah. That's what she wants. And I know, like, audiophiles hate that, but if that's what you're getting your best performance on, and that's what works in a room, because if you put a great mic in a horrible room,
you're gonna get a lot of that room.
It's a lot worse than if you put a shitty mic in a horrible room.
That's true. That's very true.
Well, and the other thing I'd posit is I think specifically what I'm referring to is the monitoring, like the room in which you're making your decisions. Like if you're acting as the engineer / producer, which I feel like a lot of these kind of studios are more geared around someone who is somewhat of a creative, like, collaborator figure, coupled with, like, I by tacit am the engineer, right? I feel like in those cases, having some vague idea of what the fuck you're actually listening to and knowing that it works, to me, is the pinnacle of that mountain.
So that sounds a little bit like a twofold thing when it comes to the monitoring: the sound of the room and then what you're monitoring on.
Exactly.
So if you can control aspects of the room, whether it's built out or not sounding crazy, go for that, and then start making a good decision with a pair of reference monitors. Maybe if you can't, this moves into the headphone world.
Yeah.
Which I am going to let Alex talk about that, because I don't like headphones.
Well, I mean, the headphones that I use are the ones I'm wearing right now, and I use them all the time, and it's not because they're the best headphones in the world. I don't think they are. I've used better headphones, but these are the ones I'm most familiar with. Sure. They've gotten me the best results when I first started. It was a huge step up to use them. And I think when it comes to like audiophile level headphones, sometimes you don't need that level of depth. Like, I have some great headphones and I still go back to these because it's just, I'm familiar. I know how things translate.
Right.
And I'm always safe with these Audio Technicas. I'm always safe.
Right.
Nothing's going to go horribly wrong. Right. You know? And then when it comes to monitoring outside of headphones, one thing that I learned recently is, like, you kind of want a smaller imprint in a worse room.
Absolutely.
Like, I have amazing monitors in my room and they don't translate nearly as well because the room is untreated as my HS5s, because those HS5s are like handheld monitors, and what you hear is what you get. There's a lot less reflections off of a small monitor.
Right. And the most common problem in an untreated room is the low end, and the smaller the monitor, the less low end interaction you're going to have just by the physical replication of the speaker. So you're kind of taking that problem out of the equation.
Now, you might not be able to get those frequencies as well,
which is a great time to have something else, like
headphones or your fucking car.
Yeah, anything.
Or,
anything you guys
you know, go get a job DJ and test your stuff in the club that you're DJing or the bar. I do that.
Hit a club.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that really at the end of the day that I'm kind of coming across to is, like, I know for me, you can make any of it work if you understand what the parameters are.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, I have worked and made records on, like, in the control room we're sitting in right now, I'm looking at a maybe $45 set. And I say that as someone who owns multiple pairs of these speakers, of Bose bookshelf speakers that are sitting on top of, I don't know, $500,000 at one point in time SSL. And it's a totally valid monitoring solution. It doesn't work for everyone, but if you learn them, it can work like fucking gangbusters.
That's like for me, the Bluetooth speakers.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, I hate them. I don't like to listen to them. But one time I was listening to a song I was mixing that I thought I had killed. And music was playing and I had it in my iTunes, so like, or Apple Music. So music was playing and it came up, a song I thought that had not come out yet. And it was like songs that sounded kind of okay on these speakers, and I played and it did not sound good at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I went in and made changes according to that, and it saved the mix. Like, I would have ended up coming out and it just didn't translate well to that format.
That's how I feel about laptop speakers and iPhone speakers.
Yep.
I hate both of those, but people have notes, so I make sure to check it out. You know what I mean? It's something people want to hear about.
That's my final reference point, is the Apple earbuds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that with the more modernized, like in particular Bluetooth speakers, just as a general thought for anyone who's having to mix, kind of be in the situation of owning small studio and trying to figure out how to make their shit work. Having like I have a couple of those like weird, creepy Alexa things. Is it the Echo?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Because it's literally the most popular playback medium in America at the moment.
Can't argue
by
that.
far.
Can't argue that.
And the thing is, there's a weird bass resonance in them. Like, if you put your shit on, you're like 80 hertz is fucking jacked on those things somehow. I don't know how, but it is. But like, you're like 40 hertz, probably not making it. So like, I love listening on those because it lets me know if I have just the right amount of like mid bass impact. And why not? It's what's going to get played on. Like, I don't love them. I don't love listening to music on them. But if everyone fucking owns it,
So
who gives a shit?
So monitoring almost becomes like a 3-point thing. The room, the speaker, and then also how familiar you are with it.
Yeah.
Like the three together will help you work with whatever you have. Dicey room, not an expensive speaker, some kind of headphone. As long as you put in the time and listen to records that you want to emulate and you know maybe sound good in all the other places. If you learn the deficiencies in your monitoring setup, you can work into those deficiencies until you're able to correct it.
I think for me, the one thing that I implore of people all the time is to treat your room in some way.
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
not saying go out and buy like very expensive room tree. I'm not saying going out and buy the attack wall.
Yeah,
I
right.
want one.
Yeah.
I want one so bad.
Sure.
But I don't have $15,000.
Yeah.
I just don't. And like,
Have you heard one of those, by the way? They sound really good.
I've heard.
They
I've heard.
They sound really good.
Really?
I've heard.
They should not work as well as they work. They work very good.
Interesting.
It's
No,
unbelievable.
I was looking at him for my new
Yeah.
spot. I know.
It's 15 racks for like
Yeah.
an average size room, which is a lot of money. But
Everybody swears by it. And also they're mobile.
that's the thing
It's
that I'm like,
if you move to a similar sized
That's
room,
right, that's
you're
right.
still fine.
15 racks on build out for a room that you own is understandable. But you think about something like that you could take with you is like, oh man, now you've really put some value in it. It's
So,
still a lot of money.
Maybe
I definitely-
in a dream, that's me.
Yeah.
But in a dream.
One last thing I'd say about the room treatment thing, just a very quick thing, as like I have gone through a phase in my life where I was having to put together a lot of bespoke studios to record one record, mix that record, and that studio would get torn down and would never be the same again.
Right.
Right? I figured out one thing about it. And I would say the following, and it kind of goes back to some of our talk on like the side chaining. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that says like, if you do these 10 prescriptive processes, then you will end at X result.
Yeah. That's not how it works.
Not with
Almost
rooms.
every single one of those ideologies is bullshit. And you see a lot of it with acoustics. Like, well, bruh, if you just put in like the 703 cloud here and you put the 703 is like a insulation type that's very common with
Right.
acoustic treatment. And one thing I would say with your acoustic treatments, whatever it is you do, if it's blankets, if it's insulation in a frame, if it's foam, whatever,
Panels. Yeah.
put a little bit up. See if you like
Yeah.
it. If you don't like it, move it.
Move
Yeah.
it. Always
Move stuff.
move it.
Don't just like throw everything up prescriptively. If you've been listening to like a 10 by 10 room and you know your speakers in there and you throw a bunch of treatment up and you're like, yeah, I guess this is right. Don't fucking trust that. You have no idea what you just did.
A personal anecdote, because when working on This Is America with Donald,
Yeah.
we went to a house in Kauai. It was fucking amazing. It was like the best work vacation ever.
Until you almost got nuked.
Yeah, until I was there when we thought we were all gonna die. Yeah. I woke up to thinking I had about 10 minutes left to live one day. But
And you were like, I should do a podcast.
Yeah, I should do a podcast. That's how this started. But when we first got there, the 703 foam that we had ordered hadn't gotten there yet. So we built a makeshift booth, and we thought that, being two engineers, that the safest place to do it would be inside the closet.
Right.
And no matter what we did to that closet, we bought foam from like the local studios. We put up blankets. We put pillows in every little slat on the door. It was just not good. It sounded like a closet. Closets inevitably sound like closets, even no matter what you do to them.
Yep.
They're not built to be for vocals to be recorded. Even if you treat the entire thing, now it sounds like the smallest space ever.
Like the whisper booth.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is VO, not for
And so what we ended up doing was getting, 3 large boxes of 703, I think like 30 panels, and just raw, then covering them ourselves, and then DIY taping them to the walls, all in his room, in his bedroom. But it was like a huge mansion, so the ceilings were like this tall, like 18 feet tall or whatever. And we just did it all the way to the ceiling and all around, and then put very like thick rugs down.
Right.
And it sounded as good, if not better than most rooms I've ever recorded in.
Yeah. But like, that's also using your fucking ears and not just some random guy that you like, some dude in Boise told you to do.
Put a bass trap in the corner.
That's why we taped them.
Better. Right.
Is we taped them so we can move them.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 times we did it, we were like, nope, not right. Not right. Not right. Not right. All right. Here. Now it sounds, now we've erased some problems.
Right.
And then we had like the hallway, so we had to block off the hallway and create this makeshift door. You know what I mean?
Right.
All that stuff was about just like, what's the problem? Oh, well, we know that this is causing the flanging, and this is causing the weird reflections. Like, so let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And the more and more, because we both, me and Riley, had made a lot of music in our days and worked in a lot of situations like this, we were able to adjust. But and this kind of speaks to just like working and trying and failing. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And when you're starting, you should like tweak it until it's right. And if it gets a little bit better, then you know it can get a lot better. And then you like, there's things that you can do, and your bedroom can be a great place to make music.
Sure.
Yeah. Well.
Oh yeah. I was going to move to the next topic, but I think that's it. I
Yeah,
think that's it for the first episode.
We made it.
Holy shit.
First episode, 3 parts, 90 minutes of audio information about engineering from 3 nerds. This is it for the first episode of the This Sounds Better podcast with Miles Walker, Jason Kingsland, and Alex Tumay. You can find Jason at Jason Kingsland on Instagram. Miles is at Mixed by Miles on Instagram. We are at Silent Sound, which does not have an Instagram and is very secretive and the best studio in Atlanta. And thank you, Brandon Collins, our videographer, and you can find him at BCP Brandon on Instagram and Twitter. This has been the That Sounds Better podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in.